Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock, founder and president of Giant Jacks Media, where we help others to grow and nurture their businesses. Really excited to have you here on Giant TV and to have my guests on a very hot topic, which is AI, ChatGPT. We've all heard about that. I've got Joe Shott here, who is a Vistage Chair in the greater Philadelphia area with 3 groups doing amazing things. Welcome, Joe.
No, I'm glad to be here, Paul. It's good to be with you guys.
Yeah, awesome. And then Ross Hartmann, who is the founder of Kingo, which is his AI firm. And we're going to learn all about what Ross is doing. He's got his thumb on the pulse of AI and ChatGPT and all of it for businesses. So this is a great discussion. So, Joe, let's start with you. What's going on with you and your Vistage practice and things that might be coming up with AI?
Well, it's a great topic these days. It's a hot topic, a discussion in each of our groups. It's actually a fascinating dichotomy when you look at the way the groups operate. We're always talking about topics that are of interest. This AI, as we all know, ChatGPT, all these things are top shelf almost. You know, it always seems to come up at every meeting, but there's not an agreement to it. That's what I find fascinating about it. That, you know, you got 3 people over here talking about it as, oh, you know, we're implementing things. We're encouraging our employees to do things with it. And then you got another group that are saying, whoa, slow down. Have you thought about the implications of you know, things that could go wrong, the security issues, different things in that area. So I find it to be a really fascinating topic right now today.
Yeah, well, do you have specific companies of the folks you're working with that are in technology that might know something about it, or is it all non-tech and they're just eyes wide open?
No, well, we've got plenty of non-tech. I've got some funny stories where the tech people in the group scare the crap out of the non-tech people. All they want to do is throw their computers out, go back to fax machines. But no, I've got a couple MSPs in the groups. And I also have a cybersecurity firm that's in the group. So very, very focused on security.
Are your members, are they actually using AI and ChatGPT? Do you find that some have already implemented things and they're going full force ahead?
Well, that's the real challenge. I find that all of them have used it at some level. At the smallest level being, I had to come up with an email that I was sending to a client, and I figured, I'll pop it into ChatGPT, and they're just fascinated how much better it comes back, and then they tweak it. Yep. But we have other people that are much further into it, you know, actually using it for hiring, using it for laying out new job descriptions, really digging in. So there's a big difference between some of the members.
Yeah, and Joe, you've got what are your groups? Chief executive groups, small business. You know, tell us who you're working with.
Yeah, I've got 2 CEO groups. Each group has roughly 14 members in there, and the industries are varied from manufacturing to security, you know, cybersecurity to financial industry. So it's really a great diverse group in that sense. From as early as 35 years old is my youngest member up to, and I have a gentleman that's a retired chairman that's 72 years old that has been through it all and brings all this, you know, sage advice to the group. Awesome. And they love it. Awesome. I also have another group that's a key group. It's referred to as a key group, and that group consists of the C-level suite, but not the CEO or owner or president. So they report to the CEO in general.
Okay, and do you have seats available in all of those groups or some of them?
I have a seat. I have a seat in each of the CEO groups right now available that I'm looking to fill. Yeah.
Got it. Great. Well, I just want to mention too, as we get in over to you, Ross, is that to get in touch with both of these gentlemen, their information is going to be around this video, wherever you're watching it, because we stream this everywhere. Maybe it's up here, down here, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, it's everywhere. So definitely connect with them. So Ross, let's get into what you're doing. Tell us about the focus of your company and what's happening.
Yeah, well, like Joe mentioned, this is a hot topic, right? So I've been in the AI field for a little more than 10 years now. And some people are kind of amazed when I say that because they're like, AI, isn't that something that just happened this year? No, it's been around since the 40s or the 50s. It's been around for quite a while in some form or another. But, you know, kind of like Joe was saying, there's there's different approaches to this. I think some people are a little more afraid of it. They have a little more fear around the risk and the security aspect, which is totally valid. And you definitely do have to consider the cybersecurity, policies that you need to put in place, and the AI use policies. But other companies are much more gung-ho about it and kind of seeing the value immediately. So I work with companies to give them sort of an AI brain. It's like, you're using ChatGPT, but imagine if ChatGPT had access to your company data. So if you're using it to create policies, or you're using it to create blog posts or something, that's fantastic. But what if it had the ability to use relevant information that you have in your SharePoint or your Google Drive or wherever you're storing that, and pull that into your blog posts? Or you could ask questions like, what's our company policy around this? Or what do we get this holiday off? That kind of thing. And you can just have it answer company specific information. It's kind of interesting.
So Ross, I'm curious, as you talk about that, it's the concerns that come from it. And it's interesting you use the words like scared of it. I hear that some people use that term. The security, in the sense of that this is sensitive information that my employees could be putting out into ChatGPT, because it is not as secure. I mean, it's public knowledge once you put it out there. What are your thoughts on that?
Really great question. So there's a couple of different levels here. One is, okay, so in doing talks, I typically find that a lot of people are using the free version, which, I understand. Using the free version, you get access to it, you get to try it out. But the challenge with that is that when you use the free version, you do give OpenAI access to your proprietary confidential information if you do decide to include it in that little prompt box in ChatGPT. And with that, they store it on their servers, and they can use that to train their future models like GPT-5. So in an enterprise context, obviously that's no good. So what you can do is you can buy a plus version, the plus version of ChatGPT, and you have to explicitly go into your settings and turn off training. Now, the challenge is, if you have 30, 50, 80 employees, you have to monitor every single one to make sure that they don't turn training back on, whether accidentally or intentionally. Why would they want to do it intentionally? Well, because when you turn it off, you lose the conversation history. So you're no longer able to see what you were talking to the AI about. So, there are other tools. So for instance, my company offers that AI brain. And as part of that, AI training is always turned off, because it always goes through the OpenAI API. And the API always has training turned off. Now, for other companies who are even a little more risk averse, what you can do is you can deploy an OpenAI model on your network, on your cloud network, via the Azure services. And what that allows you to do is you can make it so that your data never actually leaves your virtual private cloud. So it never even goes out over the internet. So you get even more cybersecurity from that perspective. And then companies who are even more risk averse, you can actually implement your own open source model that you host on your cloud. So you're not even sending data to OpenAI, for instance. Now, in most cases, that's not necessary, but for some companies, they might be interested in it.
Yeah. You mentioned there's a subscription model for ChatGPT, which is something that I just kind of discovered about 60 days ago through some of our discussions in our groups. It's cheap, isn't it? I mean, it's not expensive.
It is $20 a month, which is for the value you get out of it. And for, when you learn prompt engineering, which is kind of the study of knowing what to put in to get the best result out of the AI. When you learn that and you get that value out of it, it's absolutely worth the $20 a month.
Yeah, and I saw that it actually gives you refinement of all kinds of tools within it. Like the free version, you just type in what you want, and it kind of gives you answers. The other models have, you can ask for a professional tone versus I found that fascinating that it offered a lot more depth to it.
Yeah, and so the one thing that you do get is you get access to GPT-4, which is a newer model, which is just heads and shoulders better and above the free version, which is 3.5. So GPT-4, the plus version, it's more creative, it's more strategic, it does better analysis, its writing voice is better. It's just all around. But I mean, honestly, I would just not even use the free version, not just because of the training considerations, but just because 4 is so much better.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Interesting. Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, how do your members learn about what they can be doing with AI and stuff? And Ross, I'll throw it to really both of you, is how do companies find out, well, what should I be doing with it?
Well, I'm not sure I understood the question exactly, but what I heard you ask is how did we learn about some of this stuff?
Yeah, and how are they learning what they can be doing it, like the breadth of AI for their business?
Okay.
Like, I'm thinking of my businesses. I'm thinking, well, I'm not even sure what I could be doing with it or what I should
Right.
be doing with it. Maybe it's hiring Ross. I don't know. I mean, I just, yeah, that's the question.
I can tell you a lot of the members to date, I mean, it's just really heated up in the last 6 months. I mean, that's when we're seeing the conversations happening. And as a group, I mean, we bring in subject matter experts just like Ross that come in for half our session and actually do deep dives into sharing insights into this stuff on all topics. But this particular one, we just had someone in June at our June meeting and really showed the unique tools, the inexpensive tools that are out there that you can really put all this to use, not just ChatGPT. But then a lot of it is just self-exploration when they're in their office, and they start just poking around. So that's how the groups have learned on my end.
Yeah, and I'd ask you, Ross, is so when you go into a company, I imagine you've got to do a diagnostic, right, of what the company's doing, the processes, before you start saying, hey, you could, deploy it this way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 100% correct. So the other thing to know, and to your question, is I do think the first inclination of everyone is, I don't know what I can do with this, which I think is where we're all kind of initially at. My first approach to it is, that's perfectly fine. What do you already do on a day-to-day basis? And then consider whether AI could help you do what you already do, but more productively or more efficiently, essentially. And so locate those, identify those areas or those tasks where it's already taking you a great amount of time. Can AI be used to augment that? And likely the answer is yes. Now, there's the low-hanging fruit task, which is kind of content generation. It can help us with onboarding and a first pass at legal documents and marketing material and that kind of thing. But it can get far more sophisticated to where you can provide your sales data, your marketing data, your inventory, manufacturing information, and it can run analytics and do data insights and extract information that you might not have had access to before. So there's a whole spectrum in terms of what it can help you do.
It's fascinating you talk about that. One of the things that came to mind was when we had the speaker come in, talked about SEO for websites and how to get your website to appear earlier in that search. And it was fascinating because some of the tools that showed, okay, you need to write a small blog that has so many words, let's say 618 words, and that'll be the perfect spot to help bring your, Google's telling them this, bring it up on the search engine. And then you go to ChatGPT and the version that you pay for, and you can specify what kind of tone, all this thing. And I want it to be 618 words. And boom, I mean, in seconds, you've got this perfect thing in 618 words.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, well, that begs a question. SEO. So we've run SEO before, and it's not inexpensive, and there is a science behind it. And does AI, I mean, can it replace the traditional way you've been doing SEO, where you optimize your website, you get keywords on there, you got to write the content, and then some SEO expert is doing what they charge you for behind the scenes, keeping it optimized? Like, is that changing with AI?
So I can take a first stab at this one. Essentially, for technical reasons, the way that this technology works is you kind of train on data. You take in data from the internet, for instance, and the model then predicts which word follows which other word through statistical analysis. That's kind of a very short way of saying it. It's kind of a fancy autocomplete. So the interesting thing to note about this, though, is that sometimes these models can hallucinate. And it's exactly what you think it is. Sometimes it just makes stuff up when it doesn't know how to answer the question, or it can't retrieve the information correctly. And so these models are incredibly good at analysis, reasoning, summary, problem solving, brainstorming. They're not incredibly good at data retrieval on their own. And so that's why I tend to think of these as a different class than a search engine. Search engine is for information, for knowledge, for data. And a language model like ChatGPT or Claude or Bard, those are for analysis, brainstorming, problem solving, thinking skills that are a little different. So you can extract information from your search engine, and that's kind of what the AI brain is. It's like a search engine for your company. And you extract the data from there and give it to the language model. And that then allows it to operate on your data. Now, as far as the approach of, do we have to change our SEO strategy for AI, for instance? Right now, I don't think you do. I think you just want to be on the internet as much as possible and have as much valuable content as possible, because the way that the training works is they pull all the information from the internet. So if Google likes what you're doing on the internet, chances are the AI will as well.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I know what is anathema to SEO is reposting existing content. The bots pick it up and they suppress it, and all the SEO experts, original content. So, and I know you've answered this before, and I think I get it, but the AI, when you're using it to create content, isn't plagiarizing. It's not taking an exact piece of content over here and, okay, here you go, from all these places. So, it's good for that too, right? It won't butt heads with that content, no with SEO. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just statistically, there's a possibility that it creates something that's an existing piece of work, but the chances are so low as to be close to zero. But it is a great use. When you do start using the API, you can control something called temperature. And the higher you turn up the temperature, the more unique and creative and unusual the results of the AI can be. And once you get into the API, it starts getting pretty interesting.
What I found fascinating was when we talk about AI, everyone goes to ChatGPT. They just think of that.
Right.
But it's much more than that. From what I'm learning, is there's lots of tools out there, and one of them, of which when we talk about SEO, is content writing. Okay, and the idea is there's a tool, I don't remember the name of it offhand, but there's a tool that literally records an interview. Like, you and I, Ross, could get in a room or on something like this, and literally I just interview you and I ask you specifics about what you do in the company. And it takes it, and it's so fascinating to watch how it even backs up when you go, I'm not sure, and you're thinking, and then it actually produces a piece of content that is unique. You developed it through this interview.
Awesome.
Then you drop it into ChatGPT and ask it with temperature and tone and all this stuff to help you massage it. And it makes it even better. So it's original content with the help of AI.
That's insane. Yeah. Joe, I'm going to follow up with you on that. I want to know what that app is. That sounds cool. Very cool.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff.
And Paul, just quickly for yourself, there's another app that you can feed it long form content, and it will create short snippets for whatever platform you want to get on. We are in an incredible content creation renaissance.
Yeah,
it's really exciting. And Paul, just to add to that, then you take another piece, and you could literally, it's another AI tool. Record me. I read a couple paragraphs to you, just a few sentences, and it records my voice. All right, and now it has that my voice recognition. Now I take that thing that we just wrote, and I plug it into there, and I read it. I don't have to ever read that. It'll have my voice from there on to read everything and anything I post on my website.
It's crazy.
It's crazy stuff. It's
exciting,
but it is a little scary at times too.
Yeah, it's a little scary. But what about the video? Like, one of the hardest things is getting a video transcription. When like YouTube transcribes or Google transcribes, it's garbage. It comes out. You still have to go in there and spend hours, taking out the ums and the ahs. AI, I know what you're going to say, can probably help with that task. Is that right?
Yes. So if you're technical, there is a model called Whisper that OpenAI open sourced, and there are various services that have commercialized that for transcription. So it is, if you use the iPhone app for ChatGPT, or they just recently came out with the Android version as well. If you use that and you use the speech to text version through the app, that's using Whisper, and it's incredibly accurate, better than Siri, better than a lot of other transcription services. Now you take that transcription, you can actually run it back through ChatGPT and say, fix any of the errors in this transcription. And it will do a pretty good job at that. It's able to detect where there are misinterpretations in the transcript. It's pretty amazing.
That is awesome. What about legal documents? You mentioned legal documents. You know, I'm associated with a law firm. I build things out there, but I was actually talking to the founding partner there, and you know, there's some issues around legal. I mean, like we're talking about, can it write legal documents? Hey, write a legal document. That can get, and you can get into a sticky scenario there with liability and so forth. You know, so how specifically can it help with legal documents?
Yeah, so the first, and I think you're pointing to this, the first word of caution here is this does not replace your lawyer. You still have to consult a lawyer, but it can serve as a great first pass at either generating documents or analyzing documents. So anything that is fairly boilerplate, it does a decent job at, honestly. Now, if you're doing something hyper specific to your industry or something that's not as boilerplate, that it may not do well. But in that case, you can do a process called fine tuning to teach it how to write a particular document, if that's something you do often.
What's boilerplate? You mean, what would be a boilerplate
document?
I
mean, an NDA, a statement of work, a proposal, anything like that, anything we kind of have a term for and that we generate, and that can be found on the internet. So, it's able to generate those things. And once it's generated the first pass, you don't have to stop there. You can say, okay, can you reread this and find, is there any, are there any loopholes here? And it'll say, oh, yeah, actually, there is a loophole here. Let's add this section to anticipate that. Or are there any scenarios we might not have considered? Are there any inconsistencies? And it can help you from that perspective.
Interesting. Well,
so Ross, I'm curious, you've worked with a number of companies out there with AI. What is the most unique use of AI that you've seen or witnessed so far?
That is a tough question. Unique is a little different than amazing, I guess. So I'll say a couple of things that people are currently in the process of implementing that I think are really interesting. One is the ability to transcribe calls. So you transcribe a call with a sales rep, right? And then as part of that, it can anticipate objections or handle objections, send them to your sort of AI brain, pull that result back on how to respond to that objection. And then in addition to that, it can help the sales rep with upselling or cross-selling or increasing the average order size. There's a lot of opportunity in that realm in the terms of sales enablement that I think are fascinating. But a lot of people, and the things that are most interesting to me is kind of the data insights, is the ability to feed in your existing databases and to have AI extract information and get you reports that you can't get out of Power BI just because you have to hire 17 consultants to try to generate a report. But it can really start to unlock information in your company that's there, but you haven't been able to get out.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk forever about this. It's so interesting. I want to just say thank you both, Ross and Joe, for being here. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, get connected to these gentlemen around this video on LinkedIn or other places. And love to have both of you back to keep updated on this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Paul. And Ross, it was a real pleasure. I enjoyed this.
You too, Joe. And thank you, Paul, as well. You both are amazing. Appreciate it.